And we're live. And just another fun day at the capital's capital. The capital's capital. Okay, we're now we know we're a little big today. Call it the capital's capital. I mean, I guess the capital has to have a capital. Capital. Anyway, this is a really weird setup day. I'm looking away from you because I'm looking over here. I should be looking over here. Let's turn my chair. Face you, lovely people. I mean, you're the ones. I'm starting to look at you. I'm gonna talk to you in an accent, and I'm gonna tell you the story. Da la. Well, the, let's get this figured out here. Let me just so I can talk to you. I mean, this is. I'm here. I'm doing it for you. I'm not doing it for Bugs here. As you can see, he's on the opposite side of my chair. Thief. Stole my chair. You can't trust Bugs Bunny. You can't trust him. He's a rascally rabbit, isn't he? Anyway, to the show today. Okay, I'm gonna let you know I've been a bad boy. I've got broadcasts I haven't done recently that I haven't posted. I'm gonna post them today. Promise, promise, promise. That's my job. I can't avoid any more promise, promise. I'm gonna post them. So it means there'll be a whole bunch of content coming out this day. It'll be the 4th of July. You Americans out there, happy 4th of July. Let your fireworks go. Ours got screwed up. That is life. It's called Canada. It's called weather. They call it climate change. Well, it's called forest fires. Every time you burn something, it causes smoke. And it changes the climate. Yes, it does. Of course it does. Everything changes the climate. The climate changes constantly. But if to think that taking a bunch of cars off the road are charging us ridiculous taxes to prevent us from using and bankrupting people that have already been bankrupt by the recession, already been bankrupt by the pandemic, already been bankrupt by their own government, and tell them that they don't deserve to have the right to travel everywhere because they're horrible, smelly people. Yet you can travel and spend $96,000 on a 2-day vacation in New York in a plane that probably uses more fuel than half the population uses in a day. Period. So think about it for a second. What is more dangerous to the environment? You and your rhetoric? I'm talking to you, Mr. Trudeau, or the rest of Canada and them just going around living their daily lives? Think about it. And besides that, China probably produces more emissions every day by the industrial Loonies than all the cars in Canada combined for probably like 10 or 20 years. So our little 10 years of cutting fuel down will not make a hell beans as long as we keep buying cheap crap from China that produces coal-fired plants to make it for electricity. As long as all the stuff they made for all these lovely solar batteries, using coal again to burn to make all these lovely lithium-ion batteries and solar cells so we can be so virtuous and green. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world where we can't see, it's like slide your hand. This side looks clean, I can't see nothing here. Oh, by the way, I'm burning my dirty coal over here. I'm not burning it here. Oh, it looks pretty good. I'm burning it over here. You can't see it. You can't see it. See? Can't see it. Can't see it. Of course you can't see it because the hand's on the side. So think of that as China. Think of China. You don't see China. You don't see it. It's over here on the side. It's behind the curtain. You can't see it. And this is what's all we're nice and clean. Clean hands and that. No dirty stuff. So it's kind of silly. Anyway, I will be continuing on. I got a part one of the series I recorded, I believe, about the talk about modern society, how we got here. I did part one. I got to review them and check it over and see how I like it. Make sure it's all nice and wrapped up perfectly fine. Not there's no changes and maybe some edits and anything I might want to do to surprise you because it is a special series. And once that's done, I will start to proceed to record part two, and I'll put part one, part two there in sequence, and then that will be my summer break because I'll probably set that up for my summer hiatus. I'll put those out there and week after week, so there'll be some content out there weekly. I know there's other content providers that produce content daily. Maybe I will be one someday. Who knows? If there's enough people out there wanting to pay for me to do this as a job and give me money to sit here and talk to you and tell you what I think about things and give me my opinion about things. Oh, look at this. My shirt actually shows up symmetrically. What the hell do you know? It actually shows up correctly because I'm looking at the screen backwards. I'm seeing why it's backwards. I'm seeing myself forwards, backwards. I'm seeing a mirror. I'm seeing a mirror of myself where everything is backwards. But at least the shirt reads properly, so it's not backwards. It's just backwards very relative to me. I mean, the shirt would be backwards forwards the other way. Anyway, so we started series. Anyway, what are we talking about today? Well, we're going to talk about Happy 4th of July for our American friends. We had a Canada Day here that was not the rest of Canada Days. Like I said, wildfires in Quebec cause all kinds of problems. Irresponsible people, dry weather, You create high heat, bright weather. So, in a way, we do have to be credited with the fact that the world is getting warmer. But we have to answer our question: is why is it getting warmer? Is it because of us? Maybe. Can't say we hadn't do anything. Can't say we're not doing anything. Maybe. Um, Maybe it's because, let's think about this for a second. We're on a planet that's revolving around the sun. Anyone ever do the experiment where they do the funnel with the hole in the center, and they drop the marble on it to see what happens to it, and eventually, after time, once the momentum gets slower and slower, it gets closer and closer to the middle, and eventually it just crashes in the center. Well, that's exactly what's going to happen on a more complex level to this whole solar system, including our Earth. Because that's what we're literally doing. We're rotating around the sun. The sun is rotating around other asteroidal bodies, so we're actually moving in space while this is happening. So this is a really, really crazy biplane. We're doing this orbit around the sun, but the orbit's not really it's not in the same place. We're never going back to the same place because the whole universe is moving. We're moving around the sun. The sun's pulling us along this big this ride because we're bodies rotating around it, so we're in their orbit. As our orbit is the center of where the sun is, so if we move, the sun moves. So we're following the sun wherever we're going, but at the same time we're slowly careening along every other body in this solar system, careening into the sun. So one day we'll no longer exist. Just as quickly as we came into existence, who knows how that came? People might say God, but that's just putting in something in there to place something you don't know. It's just let's just say God represents the unknown force or unknown cause, and that'll solve the religious people because that's what it really is. It's the unknown force, unknown cause. We give it identity, we give it some agency, but then we say it's not there. It's everywhere. So it's not physical. It's physical, but it's not physical. So it's make up your mind. Which one is it? Is it a physical force that created us, or a non-physical force? What? And you want to call God, fine, call it God, but that still doesn't explain what it is, where it exists, or even if it's the reason why we're here. Because again, it creates the whole problem. Is that when you have a God, you have a solution to that problem, but then you got to solve the problem of what happened. Where did this God come from? And you create an infinite nauseum situation where you're constantly in a regression loop trying to figure out where the start is. Where all you're doing is pushing the start farther and further back to another agent, just dispersing agency of one person or entity, which we have no explanation for that, and then we have to explain that, and so on and so on ad infinitum. So why don't we just make it simple? Why don't we just say the words that are really true? We don't know. We don't know. We think we know. We have theories that maybe explain it better than we have before, but let's face it, atheist or religious person, all you are is in a group of people that believes because of whatever reason or theorizes or whatever you want to call it that the earth is some other agency that you've given a name to is responsible for it here. Fine, that's great, do that. But you know what? It still doesn't solve the problem. It really doesn't. It just makes it easier for you to cope with because you don't have to. You just put your brains on hold and say, okay, God's taking care of it. Don't have to worry about it. I don't have to care where God comes from. It's not my business, etc., etc. But God is there, and He's supposed to be taking care of me, and He's responsible for me, etc. So I'm happy. And those people that believe in God and have that belief, fine. I have no problem with you. I may not like what you have to say. I might think it's foolish. But then again, you might think, and I probably do think that what I think is foolish too. So let's agree to disagree. We neither of us really know the truth. We all think we know something. Some of us have more knowledge of others. Our civilization over time has had more knowledge about what it is, and become more educated about not just the planet we're living on, but the solar system we're living on, and some of the natural systems that make more sense now because we have figured out a little bit better why they exist and whether, as opposed to ignorant times before when we needed God to explain everything because we didn't know how to explain anything. So rather than just leave an empty hole, like Dawkins says, the God of the gaps. Let's say God is the God of the gaps represents everything. God represents everything that we can't explain now or can't explain at some point in time with something very simple, so we don't have to worry about explaining it. It's the be and all catchphrase that explains everything, whether it be back at the times of the early days or even to the modern days, where still people believe a lot of things are attributed to this God, which whoever this God may be. Anyway. Let's get about that topic. Let's get off that topic right now. We're going back to talking about climate change, but we're talking about the whole world and holistically and all the things we tend to blame. There's always going to be people at some point that think that the simple solution is just to do one thing, and this one thing will solve everything. Well, unfortunately, there's going to be people that are going to believe that because they want to believe it. They want to believe that this one thing is going to solve everything, and this other one thing is going to make it so that the people that are most affected by the consequences of doing it this particular way are going to be either not affected at all or better off. And then there's the argument, prove it. Prove it absolutely. Can you absolutely agree that the group of people you have demographically described as being the disadvantaged society who are going to be the most penalized by your policy to correct some behavior that society has by doing some other behavior to hopefully offset or compensate for that? Prove it to me. Well, the proof is in the pudding. If it was working, we wouldn't have the government having to hand grocery checks out this month, tomorrow, as the 5th of July, to people that are disadvantaged, myself included. I don't have to say it. The fact is, I'm a poor person, and I might have a lot of things, but I worked hard for those things over time. I scraped and scraped away. Many of them are used. I've had a lot of used things over time, bought and paid for whatever little bits of labor I can, and build it up over time. It took a lot of years to get to this place, to get to where I am. Some people have the privilege of buying this stuff all the way, and they have $1,000 worth of equipment that's all brand new. All of them are proud of them. It doesn't make them any better YouTubers. It doesn't make them any more better pundits in society. It doesn't make them better anything. All it does, it means that they got the means to do more than I can. They want them to have flashy videos, have flashy titles, flashy other stripes. I'm just plain Jane Mike, or plain Joe Mike. Joe in front of Mike, Mike in front of Joe. So what do? We have to look at things and figure out, is the policies that the people in power putting in place helping us to deal with the problem without making it worse for certain groups of people that don't directly contribute to the problem because they don't need to do it. Like someone that doesn't travel all around the world, rather than travel, but buys food everywhere, indirectly contributes to the problem by the purchasing of certain things from certain places because they're where we buy them wherever they're available. Hence, we have to transport. Hence, we use fuel. So things becoming from longer distances and local are definitely sometimes. And what happens a lot of times, the reason why we do it is not just because of availability, because of cost. It's ironically funny that you can get something from Mexico right now cheaper than you can get something from Carlton Place. As Pierre Poilievre pointed out, the taxes and draconian measures the government have discouraged local things being produced locally, which would actually produce less carbon. Ain't that a ironic hoot? Isn't that the most ironic thing? But this policy has never been about climate change. What it's always been about, really, the ultimate end of what this policy really was about, the real story, the real story, is that the rich people of the world want to control the poor people yet again. And you think, oh, it's a conspiracy, but think about it. Look at the way the world's working. Property taxes are going high. The government wants to concentrate people, not concentrate, they use another word, because country, we know, is a very bad word to use. We have a lot of bad baggage in country. But, I can't remember where it was, densify. This is the new catchword of the day for politicians. They want to densify. They're going to solve the problem by densifying the population to smaller areas so they don't have to go very far, and then we can bring the goods. If we bring a truck of goods, we can bring this big truck of goods with it because we're bringing it to one area. Let's densify. Everyone's getting the transit in this one area. We can make sure we can save the world in this one area. But what about the areas in between? As you densify certain areas, you create these gaps in between where you have to transport things. So things have to be transported away. And in these densified areas, what about food production? You can't produce food in densified areas. They're not a sustainable system. You can produce small amounts of food, maybe. Vegetables. Which is why the vegetarians have a field day with this one, because the vegetarians say, oh, can you take a building? We can put vegetable gardens on our garden, close to the sun. We can make up to the climate change and produce lovely vegetables. It keeps a lot of the varmints away because we can keep away the tips of vermin that would go up high, and the ones that do fly high, we can put gates and deterrents up there to prevent them from getting to a problem solved. It's a win-win. Yeah, it may be. But what about animals? You're not going to stick animals on top of tall buildings where there's less oxygen, where they're going to die. Unless you want the plants to make the oxygen for the animals, and then you're making the same problem. You're talking about all these people that don't like animals because they want to give them free range. Well, free range requires large parts of land to do that. Guess what? If you put them on farms far, far away, now you have a transportation problem because you're not going to transport all this meat for long distance. The vegetarians don't care. Of course they don't, because they don't involve it. But the people that are not vegetarians do care, which majority of us are. So, the problem is there is no one solution for every problem. But anytime someone thinks there is a one solution, sometimes that solution creates more problems. So the thing you need to think about is that when you have this, when you're looking for a simplistic solution for a complex problem, You have to think, what are the consequences of that simplistic solution? It's not just a simple solution, because it's going to have effects on other parts of the system. It always does. It always does. So the thing is, when you get simplistic people coming with simplistic solutions for simplistic people that they're talking to, because they want to explain it to them simply so they can understand, it's something intelligent. Any of the ones left that actually know the difference and can tell the difference and can call them out on their bullshit. Is that always the way? So this is the way. This is the sort of theme of the world right now. With all these things going on, there's no simple solutions. There's complex problems, complex solutions. There is simpler ways of dealing with those things on a more homogeneous and down to an organic way. That you deal with smaller problems in smaller ways in smaller areas. First, figure this. The old things. Figure the small stuff, so the big stuff will figure itself out. So instead of being this holistically trying to solve everything at one time with a supposedly simple solution, why don't we just work on the little simple things, the small things that we can do in our own lives that can contribute to making things a little bit better? If we get those things done, if we get those things right, the other solutions, the other things will come together on their own. They will. They will. Worry about the problems we can solve and stop worrying about problems we can't solve. Or stop attempting to solve problems that are way beyond that have more complexity required, that a simple solution just won't cut it. Because the simple solution in the end, like I said, causes more problems down the road for other things. There's other implications that cause by a solution that solves one problem in order to create other, but ends up creating even bigger problems on the other side because they're not looking at the repercussions, because they're only looking from the point of view that they don't care about all the complications and causes, because they're things that they don't want you to have anyway. They don't want us to have meat anymore. They all eat vegetables. But what are they going to do? All these animals roaming around free, eating all the food. They're running around. They're going to end up fighting for food. They're going to kill each other off, and then they're eventually going to come to the cities. And then we're going to have a big problem. We think the problem with animals coming to the city now is a big problem. Just imagine that problem multiplied by 100. When all these animals looking for food, ravenous animals, will kill humans for food. Especially animals like pigs, which are nice and neat. You think, oh, that's great. They'll eat slop. No, pigs are omnivores. Pigs will eat anything, including humans, including small children. And this is what the world we're going to be in if we don't be careful. We need to find a balance between nature and humanity. We have to find a way to both survive and prosper within a system till we can get to a point where we can decide whether or not humanity deserves to travel elsewhere. Do we deserve to expand our reach into the rest of the solar system? Do we deserve to colonize the moon? Do we deserve to colonize? Do we deserve to eventually move out of the solar system entirely and move to a place, once this place is blown up, that the remnants of what humanity was, all the great things humanity was that we've built over the time that we've managed to build, that we managed to not destroy, can exist somewhere else, and we don't have to start over every time. Think about it. How would it be great that even if I'm gone, dead and buried on a planet that's destroyed a long time ago, and all they got left is the memories of me? What if they got all the great things I did, all the great accomplishments that are basically the foundations for other great accomplishments? That's how I'm remembered. I may not remember physically. My physical body might be, the physical parts of my body might exist anymore. They might be blown to the universe. But the memories of me as a person, now that's a powerful thing. That's more powerful than anything. Not as powerful as having offspring, but definitely it's pretty powerful stuff. Anyway, I think I'm going to cut this broadcast course short for this time. Like I said, I need to start making more frequent broadcasts. I need to start formatting my topics more readily into sort of common segments, have some sort of script, some sort of framework to this, because I think this is going to be helpful to people, so I can come up with themes in that. I've got a couple really good topic themes I set up a while back on my thing I was going to do, and it's one of those things if you get around to it. But you know the old saying, life happens to you while you're busy making other plans. The great John Lennon didn't realize how true that saying was. It was a song, but it was a truism. It is a truism. We all have lives that interfere with the great plans we all have. And we do our best to try and work without it, make it all work, make it work in the time we have left, to make it to get as much, make as much out of our life, as much juice out of life as possible. Some of us don't get as much as they should. Some get more than others will ever have. Anyway, I'll end this podcast now. I'll say like, comment, subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, send me some email, info@intimemedia.ca. That's info@intimemedia.ca. Send me your questions or comments. Let me know what you think of this thing. Let me get some ideas. Let me know whether or not this is actually something that's interesting to you, or is it something that I'm not covering that you may want to talk about with me, either on the podcast, you want to join me on the podcast, or you just want to record a segment and submit it to me by email, like you can see it on the email at info.intimemedia.ca as well. Perfectly fine to do that. Anyway, as I said, like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends if we're looking at something that's really compelling that you want to think there's something to watch. Let them know so I can build an audience. Anyway, that's Mike, and this is Mike Julies for this week. Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.